Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because, folks, life's too short to be miserable. Welcome back, Inspiring Possible people. It is so good to have you listening again for another episode. One of the things we've been really lucky for this year is we've had some incredible guests, and today is no different. But if you're listening for the first time, welcome. I think you're going to be in for a real treat. But if you've been here a long time, thanks for coming on back. Hopefully today we will inspire you to maybe recreate or rethink what may be possible for your life. Or maybe you're in a season where you're a little bored and you're like, what else could I do? Well, I think this guest is going to give you some fresh inspiration on all the possibilities that you could create for your life. So I'm really excited because this person, she's not only just an Emmy Award-winning actress, if that wasn't enough, and producer with over 20 plus years of experience in TV, film, and print. She also is the owner and executive producer of a production company, Tallulah Films. And also, she's like the co-owner of like this cool thing that I had to go look up, Karina, before you
The
came.
first time.
Refreshpatch.com,
Yes.
what we're seeing on the Shark Tank. And she's also a podcast host of Coffee with Karina, which is kind of like entertainment unfiltered. So you can get the behind the scenes of all the things in the entertainment industry. But we're kind of just here to get a little bit about her story. But welcome to Inspiring Possible, Karina.
Thank you so much, and thank you for mentioning all that. I know there's a lot of stuff going on there, but it's all fun.
Yeah, I know. So when do you sleep? That's what we all
Yeah,
want to
I know.
know.
It sounds crazy. It's like I don't work on all of those every day, or I definitely would
Yeah.
probably go out of my mind. But, I kind of block out time, and sometimes, like with Fresh Patch now in the beginning, I worked on it with my husband every day, all the time to build it, but now it's, quite a few years later, so we don't have to do that
Yeah.
every day,
So
once or
there's
twice a
support
week.
and systems and things
Yeah.
like that that you don't have to really be in the day to day.
Yes, exactly. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I know, because all of that in the day to day would sound a little bit overwhelming, but that's why you put ideas out of the world, you build them, and then you get really good support from other people, so that way you can still, have it going, but not it doesn't all rely on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your story, how you even got into the entertainment industry, how you maybe found yourself where you are today, because I'm sure this has been I mean, you didn't just get here overnight, right?
Oh my gosh, no. I wish, but
Yeah.
no. Um, it's funny, I knew that I wanted to work in entertainment and probably, like, acting or even, like, comedy. I loved doing comedy when I was really little, though. So I would watch, like, comedians, when I was, like, 3 or 4 years old in England because I was born in England. And, the whole time, I'm like, "I wanna do this." So I remember telling people then, this I'm gonna be an actress, and I didn't know anybody that did this stuff, I had no idea how I was gonna get there. But I did, little things growing up. I did theater for, a while when I was younger. I did, like, speech and drama in school, and then I didn't really do any of that, and then I did some modeling, and it all kind of just snowballed, into where it is today, but I think the bulk of that was probably in the LA. So I was there for 12 years, and I worked a lot. I worked on commercials, TV, film, all that stuff. So that's where I learned, I would say, most of what I know today, and then the producing just kind of happened. I thought, "Well, it'd be fun to be a producer," but I thought, "Well, this is crazy." I'm like this model actress. No one's gonna take me seriously. But, I was applying for jobs and I kind of got like an entry level associate producer for The Balancing Act, which was on, I think it's still on actually on Lifetime. It's their morning show. So we moved to Florida and then, things kind of spiraled from there in a good way. And I just kept producing little things along the way that I was really passionate about. And I think that's kind of really important, if you do if you have the option, do something you really care about, it makes a difference. So, and now I'm
Yeah.
here.
Well, let me ask you this. What was the biggest obstacles you've maybe encountered along the way, or like what kind of comes to mind? Because
I can imagine, and this may be a real big assumption, that the entertainment industry is not always an easy one to access. It
Yeah.
may have a lot of other people also vying for different spots or different opportunities. That's just my blatant assumption that could be completely wrong. But I'm curious, what were the biggest obstacles you faced along your journey to kind of
Mm.
get where you are today? And then what were some of the things that helped you kind of overcome some of those?
Yeah. I mean, I think I always talk about this, like being in LA for those 12 years, you learn to get thick skin really fast, because you're going a lot of auditions, there's a lot of rejection involved. So that was kind of a big um milestone. Once you get past that, it's like, okay, you don't take it personally.
How did
And you
you
just
deal with that in the beginning?
how
Do
to
you remember?
I mean, I knew it was coming. I knew it wasn't gonna be easy. But I guess, sometimes you think, "Oh, I could have done this differently," or I could have wore this or whatever, but it's not really about that. It usually has nothing to do with it. And I think especially now having that production, on being on the other side of the camera, that experience, I know that, when we see like a lot of auditions for something, sometimes the best people, the best auditions don't get the job, or it's just kind of one of those weird things. But no, I think in the beginning, that whole like, how am I, I had this vision, right? I had this idea of what I wanted to do, but it's like, how are you going to get there? And a lot of it is getting past those. I know you talked about things that maybe you can't get past, right? So like, maybe it's like a fear thing, like, "Oh, I'm not good enough to do this," or "I don't have the training," or "I don't have," whatever it is. It's like you really wanna put yourself in those rooms, but at the same time, try and gain some experience too, so you gain the confidence to get to the next level and put yourself in
Yeah.
those places.
Well, and how many times would you say, and just for listeners, like that there was, and like you developed thick skin, but that you really had been rejected before you got an opportunity? Like, would you say the rejection was a lot more than the opportunities, or the opportunities more than the rejection?
Yeah, I mean, and I actually worked a lot. I was one of the people that was usually, doing pretty well. And yeah, I mean, it's just part of the gig. It's like being a salesperson and going out and selling, whatever door to door. Not everyone's gonna buy, your product, but it's just part of it. And I think the more comfortable you get with that, then it doesn't matter anymore, you know.
Yeah. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go for it.
And you just have to go for it, and so I think that really helped me with everything, with business, with ideas for documentaries. Like, if I really feel, in my heart, like, this is the right project for me to work on, I'm not gonna worry about so and so who may have an opinion, this says this is
Yeah.
a horrible idea, or, whatever, because everybody has an opinion. So, I think it's just really listening to yourself and going with your gut, and
Well, and I can imagine being in a more public facing at times. I know it's not all day, but
yeah.
job, right? Or just kind of industry. There is probably a lot of people with opinions
Oh,
about
yeah.
anything that you do.
Yeah, and I feel like the more you do that's, in the public eye, the more people wanna talk about it, in a positive way and sometimes a negative way, but, I mean, I've been really lucky, I haven't had too much of that.
You
Um
haven't had too many haters.
No, I haven't. I mean, knock on wood, but I haven't really had too many of that, but, yeah, you have to know that the more successful you get, I think, there's gonna be a little more of that maybe sometimes, or just opinions, and, you let them say what they wanna say and you move on, so
Yeah. Well, I know, now you kinda also have your podcast where you kind of give the behind the scenes. What has been the biggest for you, I don't know, maybe thing maybe that you've learned since you've been doing podcasting, or just what you've learned about other people, that because I know you've talked to a lot of people who are also started over here and then
yeah.
have really created something pretty phenomenal. And what's maybe something that you've learned from your guest as you've done more of the podcasting?
Yeah, I would say that everybody has a story that maybe doesn't look as rosy as you think. Not that everyone has a terrible story, but everybody has things that they need to overcome to reach their dreams, whatever that may be. So, and that was really one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast is I wanted to find out, hey, how did these creatives get to where they are? What did they do? What were their fears? What were their obstacles? And how did they overcome them? I think it's real, it's uplifting and, it's inspirational to so many people listening. They can pick up on that and say, okay, well, they did it. I can do it
Yeah.
too. So I think
Maybe I
that's
can
all.
do it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you determine what you want to do next? Like at this phase that you are in life, like I'm sure
Yeah.
there are some maybe habits or things that you do to really not only manage your time well, because I know you still have a lot of things going on, but also
Yeah.
just create and identify what is the next thing for you.
Yeah. That's a great question. So it really depends. So I'm a mom of two girls too. And that's like my biggest thing. Like I don't want to miss anything. So I plan everything around that if I can, unless it's like a
How
movie or
old are
something.
they?
So they are 14 and 9. So they're
Okay. Okay.
they're getting a little bit older now and they keep telling me, they're like, you can go work on something if you want for like a week or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. what to do."
I don't want to leave you. Well,
I
listen, I
know.
was
I'm like,
old, and the time like she's about to be 17, and I'm just like, where? I think the closer she's getting to graduating high school, I'm like,
it's
where did the time go? I have no
I
idea.
know. No, I feel the same way. My eldest just started high school, and I'm just like so part of me has that struggle, where I'm like, "Okay, I don't wanna miss this time because this is, like, precious and all that." So yeah, right now, I mean, I'm just focusing on really getting them going, and the youngest is starting musical theater right now, so I'm really kind of I wanna build them up so they can follow their dreams and do that, and so far so good on that, but yeah, right now, it's funny, I've been thinking, like, all summer, I'm like, "What am I gonna do next?" I think after winning the Emmy, that really kind of put those questions in there too. What do I wanna do next? What kind of impact do I want it to have? What's that gonna be? And I've been really kind of taking it slow and like, being I hate to say being quiet, but just kind of centering a little bit because sometimes I have to wait for it to kinda come to me. If I go searching for it, it's not as, like, authentic, if that makes sense. So
No, it makes 100% sense because I
does
feel like, believe it or not, I'm in a very similar season. Like, there's been a lot of growth that we've had in different areas of my life. And I feel like this summer actually, and I really feel like for the rest of the year, it's just kind of trying to gain clarity because I will jump into things, Karina, like 1,000%, where
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this seems to be a good idea. But I've also learned that I
Yeah.
need to give myself the time to center because I may be heading into something just because I want something new or different, but it may not actually be the best path for me to take.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so I think creating that space to get whether it be the inspiration or maybe the direction or the guidance of like, no, this is really the next direction that you should go into and pour your time, energy, effort. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really felt that. So, yeah, I've just kind of been chilling, and I mean, I love to I don't get to paint ever, like, I used to paint a little bit, so, like, canvases and stuff like that, so, I don't know, I'm like, maybe I'll do some of that, I don't know. But I do have a couple of projects that are, close to being finished that I've been working on with great teams out of, London that are, like, short documentaries that should do well, but other than that, I'm like, "Hmm, okay." So we'll see.
What's
Yeah.
next? Where do I wanna go from here? Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's one thing, I don't know about you, I was actually journaling this morning. I actually gave myself some space to do that. I don't do it every day, I try, but
It's
I was just
great.
kind of, like, reflecting on some things, and I was like, really, once you learn that pretty much anything is possible, then the hard part is getting the clarity on what direction you wanna go, I think sometimes, you
So
know?
yes, just if you can picture it for me, it's like if I can see it in my mind, if I can picture it, then I'm like, "Okay, this can happen."
Yeah.
It's when it gets like, a little blurry or shaken, I'm like, I can't see this, I can't envision this." Then it makes me nervous sometimes with different things, but no, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and is there anything that you kinda do, there might not be, but, like, to really clearly envision something, like is it maybe sitting with your eyes closed? Because I agree, when I can see something clearly, even though it's not came into being yet, right? Then I
Yeah.
can clearly and very confidently go in that direction, even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else. Like, everybody
Yeah.
else might be like,
I love
no."
that.
And I'm like, I don't care. I can see it. Y'all better just come on along and just trust me.
Yeah.
But how do you get to that clarity of vision? Is there anything that you do or does it just come to you?
No, I do. It's funny. I haven't been lately because it's so hot in Florida right now, but I like to walk. And I talk about this a lot, just going to the park or walking, in nature. And it really helps to like clear, or I had to say clear my blank brain, but like put everything in perspective and, make everything
Mhm.
kind of fall into place, I guess. Like, okay, this can happen or no, this isn't gonna work. So I usually do that and that helps me so much. Even if
Yeah.
I a lot of lines to learn for like a movie or something, I'll do the same thing and I'll just play it. There's different apps and it kind of helps get it in there and into your mind. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what I've heard? I mean, I love to walk too. I actually walked this morning. That's why I feel like I'm
Is
probably
it?
more energized than
Yeah.
most because I'll choose what kind of, I guess, exercise I'm gonna do for the day, but I really am trying to prepare for this hike I'm going on
Oh,
that I need
mhm.
to be training for. So I was walking, right? And but you're right. I just feel so much more centered when I allow myself to do that. And I
Mhm.
think that I can be also less reactive in a day and
Yeah.
more open. And so, yeah, and I think when you're really trying to work through decisions about maybe what kind of creative endeavor or anything that you want to do in life. I've had some really bad, not bad, or big decisions that I've had to make. And so either walking or I also kayak sometimes.
I
That kind of helps me somewhat.
Yeah, just being on the water is like really
Hmm.
thing on the water.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Something
Something so
repetitive.
simple.
Yeah.
Something so simple. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, has there been anybody or maybe either in the past or even now that's really inspired you that really kind of helped you push yourself to do some things, like you said, even producing when you first started out, you're like I could almost hear when you were telling the story earlier, you're kind of like, "Oh, I don't know. Are they gonna take me seriously? Is this
Yeah.
something that I can do?"
No, that inspired me. I was always really inspired by Oprah from like a young age. And I remember just like running home, grabbing something to eat, and like throwing myself in front of the TV and watching the Oprah show every day. It was like without, I probably learned a lot from watching that show. But no, I've always been inspired by her because she has such big dreams. And I think she talks about, the fears that she had, or maybe like, the thought that I don't know if this is right for me, but she did it anyway. She didn't give in to that
Mhm.
fear. And I think that's really important. But no, I think Oprah's amazing. So as
Yeah.
other people do as well.
So Oprah's the person to come to mind. Every time I think about Oprah, I just think, "You get a car. You get a car."
Get it, guys.
And that meme, and it's interesting.
Yes.
I used to watch stuff when I got off the bus too, but I feel like by the time that because we didn't have cable when I was growing up, and the stuff that was on TV by the time I got home from school was like Montel Williams or Maury, stuff that you probably shouldn't be
Maury Povich.
watching.
Yeah, I wasn't into Maury Povich. It was that and then Nick at Night. I was really kind of a TV junkie. I watched all the Nick at Nights, and now I don't really watch TV at all. People always ask me, they're like, "What do you watch?" I like Dexter. That's one of my favorite shows. I watch that lots.
Really? That
But
is interesting because, I mean, as somebody who does a good bit of stuff in the entertainment industry, I was curious about that. Like, how much do you actually consume versus create, right? And
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I used to be really into like the morning talk shows. I would watch them religiously. So maybe that did something, but what else? Dateline. I love Dateline. It's calming. I don't watching Dateline. Like, I'm just gonna chill and watch
Uh,
but
now I'm thinking about Law and Order SVU whenever that song dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
like
all that stuff. It's all good. Yeah.
yeah, Dateline's interesting. Do you like the crime podcast and things like that? Are you a crime junkie?
It's funny as I don't and I yesterday, I put it on and I was trying to listen and I was like, "I can't listen." It's, like, too much to take in, like, the
Mhm.
auditory. I'm like, "No, this is not gonna work for me." But, I know people love them, though. People really love those, the crime
They do.
stuff.
I can't get into it because I'm like, I do not wanna put any anxiety into my brain so that I can be fearful of stuff, like,
That's what I'm
I just
saying.
wanna be able to walk down the road and feel just fine,
Yes, I could not do that, like, driving around in public, I was like, "Oh, no, this is not gonna work for me." But yeah, calming stuff while I'm driving. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of as you have met different people along the way, because I'm sure one of the things too that not only for the podcast, but in other areas, you probably get to meet tons of people as you
Mhm.
just walk along or just do projects and stuff. And it
Yeah,
sounds like you also have to lead teams
I
as
do.
a
Yeah, for
as a
certain
producer.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the hardest thing for you about leading and what has that taught you? Because that is a different challenge in and of itself.
The hardest thing about leading a team? I actually really enjoy it. I love that part. I don't wanna say it's the hardest part, but I think the most important part is just hiring the right people. So important, hiring the right team, and the right putting the right people in place so that they can do their job, and I'm not micromanaging everyone, they can kinda lead their department. Um, yeah, I don't know, I probably in the beginning, it would have scared me a little bit, I thinking, "Oh my gosh, I have to hire," I think it was one of the movies we did that between, right, 80 and 100 people we had to hire total with extras and everything else, and that seemed kinda daunting, but, I mean, if you do it right, there's only so much you can do, right? You just hope for the best, you have faith, everything's gonna come together. Um, yeah, I would say that. I think that's the real stress, it's just and once you've hired the people that you've made the right decision, to put them
Um,
in charge.
well, that makes me think about something, and I don't know what will come to mind to you, but I know that when you are trying to create things in your life, you have to sometimes take big risk, and sometimes they have great rewards on the end of it, and sometimes it does not exactly work out the way you want it
Yeah.
to. What is the biggest leap that I think that you feel like you've had to take in life? Like, if you think of all the things you've done, what's got you here and now, what was the
Uh-huh.
biggest leap that you feel you've had to take to date that was
I
the
would
scariest or more maybe riskiest?
I would say the podcast. I would say
Okay,
that
let's talk about that.
yes, yeah, and you can probably relate to this too. So it was during 2020 and I was really bored, like we were saying how we don't like to be bored. I was kinda like, "Oh," because there were no projects going on, everything had shut down. And I was kind of looking for other creative things to do, and I was writing for a magazine, and everything was going great, and then they were like, "Well, maybe you should do some of these, um, by audio," and I was like, "Okay," and they're like, "You could do a podcast," and I was thinking, "Oh my god, like, why would I do a podcast? Like, I am not a that is not who I am at all?" For some reason, I was just really against it. I was like, "I don't know." So I kind of fought with that for a while. And then I thought, okay, the interviewing, like the journalism part, I love. So, I tried it, but it was scary. It was honestly scary. And my first guest was somebody kind of well known, and and then they were having like audio issues, and I was just like, oh my! I remember like my heart like pounding. Like, what do I do? What happens if you don't want to say the wrong thing? I guess you can edit, and it's like everybody figures that out.
Yeah,
You can edit and it really doesn't happen, but, like, I think it's just kind of for me, it was kinda scary, because it was really
yeah.
putting myself out there in a way that I hadn't put myself out there. Yeah, so it was kind of like, "Okay, here we are, we're doing a podcast."
Here's me, and
Yeah,
it's gonna live
yeah.
on this, internet for
Forever. Yeah, so it was all new to me, and I'm like, "What happens if no one listens? What happens if people hate it? What if you get comments like, 'What is she doing?'" Who knows? But the complete opposite happened, and people were like, "Wow, Karina, this is really great. We love listening." And then people that I didn't even think would listen would, reach out to me and say, "I love this episode," or "This was so great." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So it was really the listeners, I think, that really pushed me to do more, which
Yeah,
was cool because I wasn't expecting all that. I didn't even know if I would do another one. So, yeah, so that was kinda cool, but, yeah, it was scary, I remember it, being the unknown, being
yeah. Well, and, I think that's the biggest thing is, right, like, anything that you're embarking on that you've never done before
yeah.
is very unknown and uncertain, and I was
Mhm.
actually reflecting on that this morning. I'm like, really, it's just the fear of the unknown that really, I think, sometimes stops us, and
Yeah.
I can think about the podcast too. When I first started the podcast, I did a bunch of solo episodes to start because I
You
just wanted to
did?
lay the foundation, and then I
Mhm.
started doing guests, maybe about episode maybe 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just remember what was actually scary. was not the conversations for me. Like that, I felt like I was going to be comfortable with. The
Uh-huh.
thing that was scary for me was the monologuing and having no feedback because my background is working more as a
Yes.
therapist. And so that's kind of where my history is. And so I love the
Uh,
be able to see people, see their
yeah.
reaction. It gives me a lot of information. But then I'm like, I'm gonna have to speak into this microphone.
Yeah.
I can't gauge anybody's reaction while they're listening, you know.
That's it.
I
You
don't
can't
know if it's
see.
gonna sound completely dumb. I don't know if people are gonna think that this has already been done before. Why is she talking about this? You know, like you said, all the different things. But I had a friend in my life who was like, actually a few that had actually did a podcast before. And
Mm.
they were like, Christy, we had a meeting that day for some reason. It was like a mastermind group I was in. They're like, Christy, before the end of the day, you need to record the first episode because I had everything ready to go, like the
Amazing.
graphics, the setup.
Yeah.
It was ready. I just needed to push the record button. And I will remember that that first one was a little scary, but then the more I practiced, the more I did it, the more I interviewed, then I'm like, oh, okay. What's the worst that can happen?
Right.
Somebody
Right.
not like something and push pause right now on this recording, you know? That's
Yeah.
about it. You know,
Yeah.
not forcing anybody to listen, but hopefully you are. Thank you for
Yes.
still being a part of this episode.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. If people don't wanna listen, they don't have to if it's not their cup of tea, you know? So it's like,
yeah.
yeah.
So who kinda helps push you kind of maybe past do you have anybody in your life, or is it more you push yourself to kinda, you know, overcome some of those fears, maybe of
Uh,
the unknown?
yeah, it's funny. So with my girls, I'm always telling them that, if they say they don't wanna do something, they're the thing today, my little one was like, I'm scared. I don't want to do it anymore. And I'm like, well, why? Give me a good reason why you don't want to do it. She's like, well, I'm just scared. I'm like, no, the fear is not a good enough reason not to
Mm,
do it. So she's like, I know. But what will happen now is if I say something or she'll hear me talking about something, that I have coming up, and she'll be like, now, you can't, if you're just super worried about it, if you're fearful of it, it's not a good reason. And I'm like, you're right. So it's really cute, like, they'll do it both ways, but, I would say just for myself now, I don't know. I mean, my husband's great. I have great friends, in my life are always like, "What are you doing?" And they're always wanting to know what's next, and, but yeah, I think just but for me too, it's the resting, like, the working part isn't hard, For me, it's like, okay, it's okay to take a break, Like I was
yeah.
saying, or it's okay to be like, just wait until you really know what's next, and
I
yeah.
think this is the plight of all multi-passionate creative people
Yeah.
that are doers. You know, not
Yeah.
everybody is an implementer, but if
Uh-huh.
you are an implementer, I really think this is the hard part because I think there's so much immediate return. Like you get feedback from doing, right? If I'm going to do something, I'm going to learn really quickly. Did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? You know, I at least can see something completed. And the just being is like, it's like
It's different.
you just have to wait, and it's like you're
Yes.
just sitting and you're just being in the moment, and I know that sounds really glorious, and I'm not saying that I didn't have a great time doing it this morning, I did. I know that it's what I need,
Yeah.
but allowing myself to sit in that space when I'm so used to, like, getting the task list out or being like, "Okay, what do we need to do next? What do we need to do next?" I don't sit well, and I've had to learn how to really
Yeah.
figure out how to sit more, you know, and just be okay with maybe it's not a productive day. Maybe I, you know, just
Yeah.
walked around a little bit and didn't really accomplish much today. That's okay. So it sounds like you've maybe have the same challenge at times.
Yeah, I do, and I think just following that and, trying to be like, "Okay, we're gonna do this, and we're just gonna." I mean, they call it, like, self-care now, which I guess is kinda what it is, but yeah, I think it's nice to kinda slow down a little bit, especially when it gets so busy. Like, I know the certain seasons for me, when all the film festivals start here, like in the fall, and there's just certain seasons that get really busy. So I need some of that time to rest, and kind of gear up for the next thing too.
Yeah.
Like I know, for example, like my October, it gets pretty crazy. Like the end of this month, and then like all through October is gonna be a lot. So so I'm gonna get my rest.
Giving yourself permission, like, if I only
Yeah.
have this to do today, like, I'm giving my self permission to go for that walk or rest. And I'm in Louisiana, so it's getting a little bit better. Like today, I was able to walk and there be a slight breeze, still
Oh, yeah.
sweating bullets the whole time, but,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
No, it's
it's
like
like,
here.
when is
It's
that rest?
cooling a little bit, so I'm excited about that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, hopefully more walking in your future
Yes, I
if it's a
can't
little bit less.
wait. I'm just waiting. Usually it's like I was thinking this morning, I'm like, usually it's right after Halloween, and Halloween's kinda coming up, then it'll really
Yeah.
start to.
Yeah, it takes a while, and then yeah, it's just the longest, hottest. But I don't mind in a lot of ways because 'cause I'd rather not shovel snow personally.
Mm.
I don't know about you if you've ever lived in colder climates, but I can't imagine myself doing that. No.
Yeah, I know. It's okay to visit. I always tell my little ones,
Exactly.
we'll visit this
100%.
back to Florida." So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if there is one thing that you would really wanna encourage listeners with? Like, one thing that's really helped support you or maybe just, like, you wish more people would know or do, what would you think that would be?
I think it's really like we were just talking about, just working on mindset. Mindset is so important for anything, and just getting your head and just being calm. If you have certain goals or things that you want to accomplish, just really getting a hold on that. And that kind of will set you on the right path, I guess, to get it done. And, it's good to, keep it going and have those task lists that you were talking about, because I'm a big list maker too. So I have so many lists on my phone. But yeah, and just envisioning it, keep a vision of it in your mind. Put a picture on the refrigerator, whatever it is that reminds you of, what the direction that you're wanting to go, and just stick with it, and you might get some rejection, just like we were talking about, but that's okay, as long as you
Yeah,
can get through that and realize that that's part of it. Sometimes it's like redirection to another.
yeah. Well, and you're right, it's kinda like if I didn't have any pushback, then this may be I always think, like, I know that some things in life do come easy, but if it's too easy, I'm, like,
Right.
looking to figure out something is gonna go wrong. So, it's like you said, I love how you said and you reframed it of, like, factor that into the equation before you even get started. Like, I'm
No,
gonna
it's
get rejected. Something's not gonna work right. Something's gonna take me way longer than I anticipate. Something's gonna, somebody's gonna say something that might shift my mindset. But what do
yeah,
I need to do? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and just expect that and know that it's gonna happen. Just, you know, what is it, the book right now, Let Them? That's so smart. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Let them," right? You let them do it. It's such a.
It's always the simplest things that you're like, wow, what a simple concept.
Yeah, it's
But
so
we all
true.
need to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to kind of follow a little bit more about you, check out the podcast or just kind of connect with you, where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, obviously the podcast, Coffee with Karina, Entertainment Unfiltered, and then probably Instagram,
Okay.
Karina Michelle Official is my name on there, and that's kind of everything I do. So I'm always posting, what's going on and, what's happening with everything. So you can kind of see what's there. Mm.
Yeah. So if you want the behind the scenes of just whatever is going on
Like,
in Karina's life, that's where to
it's
find
very
you.
behind the scenes sometimes. I'm sure people are like, "What is this?" But yeah, yeah.
I think people appreciate authenticity and what real life looks like,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, sometimes I have to really be careful. I think about this as like, I don't think it's a place where you just go put all the things that are like terrible right now or that you might be struggling with right there. That might be hard, but like, it's good to have a reality of this is really what it looks like, because I do think that sometimes people, just as we've had in our conversation today, you see where somebody is at in that moment, but you don't always know what it took for them to get there.
Right.
And I think that what's that quote of like, you see the overnight success that actually took 10 years to create, right? To
Uh,
everybody else, it seems like, oh, they just arrived and I might be doing something wrong. Why
yeah,
can't I get to my goals like they have? And I think it's
yeah.
just remembering like behind the scenes is real life. Like my mom used to say, everybody has to put on their pants at the beginning of the day.
Right. Yeah, and it's always people think it's like one or two big things that I think, sets the like trajectory of success like that, but it's all the little things. Like I've thought about much, it's all of those things that sometimes people don't see, that get you
Yeah.
to the next place, or It's a weird thing, but yeah, I think it's just and the habits that you do every day and all of that, so
Yeah, and just consistently showing up. I think,
yeah,
yeah. I think one thing is clear vision and consistency. You're
yeah,
bound to get somewhere close.
yeah,
It
right.
may not be
You're gonna get
exactly as
somewhere.
you intended, but it's gonna be you're gonna get close to where you are starting
Yeah,
out. But
so
that
true.
consistency is, I think, a hard part for a lot of us because, it's easier to sometimes just sit in the comfort zone of life and instead of
Right.
branching out and doing the uncomfortable thing again and again and again and again and again until it's like not uncomfortable anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what sets people apart, is knowing that they have to do those uncomfortable things like, "Oh, this is not what I was thinking," or whatever, but yeah, it
Yeah.
helps.
Well, I always say, I mean, I've heard it, but like, choose your hard. And everybody's hard is
Yeah,
different, but it's either, okay, I can do this hard thing and get to this end result, or just stay stuck in this hard place
right.
and have a result that I'm more likely know is going to happen. So it's
Yeah.
crazy, this thing called life. Well, let me ask you something, Karina. There is the question I like to ask my guests as we're wrapping up. And that's just if you were to go give one piece of advice to younger you, maybe it's when you were first starting out in your career, or
Okay.
maybe it was, even maybe when you entered motherhood or whatever part along the way that you would give younger you, or maybe that 4-year old that was watching the comics in Britain. What is the one thing that you wish you could go back and tell younger you?
Probably just not to sweat the small stuff, it's those small things that seem so big at the time. It's like, "Oh, no, this didn't happen. Oh my gosh." Kinda like dramatic. And just know that, again, things are, not always gonna go your way, but yeah, just not letting, a little hiccup get in the way of, the goal, the end goal.
Yeah.
Enjoy the journey too. That's it. I feel like people are always so, like, wanting to get to a certain place, and it's like, "Oh, when I get here, everything's gonna be good," but it's like, you gotta enjoy the whole journey. I feel like I did enjoy the journey, sometimes a little bit too much, but no, I think it's good to do that, and not have any
I think
regrets.
so too. Because you can miss all each stage of wherever you're going. There's parts of sometimes when you look back, you're like, man, I really appreciated or enjoyed this part of this journey. But I remember
Yeah,
wanting to get to where I'm at now,
right,
right? So I think
that's it.
enjoying the journey really does allow you to appreciate the different stages along the way that you go because once that stage is gone, it's gone. It's not that you can't go back, you can only go forward. So
That is yeah, very true.
yeah. I can even remember in high school really wanting to drive, like, ooh, I can't wait till I drive. And then, now however many years later, I'm like, man, I really wish somebody would drive for me on some days.
Yeah, it's you always want more like what you don't have, and then it's like, "Wait a second, this is pretty good here." So, yeah.
Yeah, we just have to sometimes allow ourselves to notice it, and I think that's
Mhm.
where the real gift is, if you can learn to notice the things that around you that are going right versus focusing on what you wish you had. And I think desiring to have something for the future is perfectly 1,000% okay. I think that's
Yeah,
probably how you've gotten to where you are because you're like, yeah, I'd really like that. So let me go for it. But it's okay to also be like, but I appreciate where I'm at in this stage and the gifts that,
exactly,
accompany those different journeys. So
exactly.
yeah. Well, listeners, if you're listening, y'all know I like to leave y'all. I'm walking away with a few things from Karina today. But I think
Well, that's
one of the things that she said that I just want to highlight for you as maybe you go about your day is remember, like obstacles, they're going to be a thing. Rejection is going to be a thing. But if you can clearly imagine and envision the direction that you want to go, then anything is possible. So I hope you take a moment today, whether it be going for a walk in nature, kind of like what you talked about, or allowing yourself a place to just sit remembering that, imagination is not just for the 3 and 4 year olds around there, it's for the adults as well. And you can create what you imagine. So until next time.
That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.